It's just
Oh,
the CPI. We know that it's
All
2.6.
right, you're going live
Yeah.
in 3, 2, 1.
All right.
You don't have to shut it down.
who are we missing, Corey?
Corey, Debbie.
Got it on here, so just leave this, 'cause you'll have to.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes, you're very
Thank you,
welcome.
Nicole.
How is it the call?
So Nicole gets Here, Doug, you probably need to try to have some of this. Take that. Yes. Are you on your way? Are you gonna have to go to that one? Okay, we knew that, so you're gonna head there? Okay, anything you want us to pass on or discuss on your behalf, or? Right. Okay. Right. Well, it is. Yeah. Okay, good. Sounds good. We do have a copy of that Senate bill here in front of us, so that'll be a part of our discussion. Right. Okay. All right, well, good luck out there. Yep, bye. All right, that was Corey, so he's has to go to the scene of that accident as well. So our members are dwindling quickly.
Is Debbie coming over?
She said she was.
Said she was going to be here. Yeah, she's not in her office.
Hmm.
I can go,
There she is.
okay, perfect. Waiting on you, Deb.
Was Kirk coming? I don't know if he was.
No, he's not. I was up there, he's at judge school.
Oh, okay, okay.
There you go.
So I guess we can call this meeting to order of the Compensation Board. First order of business is to select a chair and a secretary to take notes and submit minutes to the commission. So I guess we will open the floor for nominations for chair.
Chris, you interested in being
This is
the
somebody's
chairman?
turn, not really.
No?
This is my second time ever being at one of these meetings.
Yeah?
Maybe the third or fourth one I'll feel prepared to take over, but
Well, I chaired the last one, so somebody else gets a chance to this time.
generous to a fault, Darrell.
Huh?
Generous to a fault.
Hey, Mike?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Okay, we need a secretary. Do we need to put, I guess we need to put that to a vote. Who do we, Peter and Chris are voting members, and Doug? What's that?
I didn't hear your question.
Voting members? You and Chris and Peter and 3 commissioners?
Yeah.
So we need a,
All right, because I'll make a motion.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
I'll make the motion that Mike Delger be our chairperson for this compensation board meeting.
And I'll second that motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same? Aye. Okay, then we need someone to be the secretary. And you want to do that, Debbie? I think it just basically amounts to taking notes and make sure the minutes get submitted to the commission.
So is this considered a working minute meeting? Or?
Yes.
Okay, so. Yes, I will do that.
So the purpose of the board is to make a recommendation on the raises for elected officials. And whatever we come with has to have at a minimum of 2 commissioners in support of the motion. And then the recommendation is made to the commissioners. Commissioners can either accept it or reject it and propose one of their own when it comes to the commission meeting. So I guess we will open the discussion with who wants to go first.
I guess this is just a question. Part of our discussion is, I guess, is 3 things. First, a COLA adjustment. If there is going to be a different adjustment for elected officials, and then also medical benefits increase. Is that right, Debbie? And can you tell us again how much that was? 20, so the 27?
$27.
27? It's stuck in my mind.
A month or a pay period?
A month. So the total premium went to $13.92 a month. And we pay the trust per person per month.
Is that an increase?
Yes, it's an increase from $13.75 a month. They changed their rates. Usually it's set to effect with payroll April 1st to cover May and June premiums. So they're off by a couple months for our fiscal years. So we carry the increase until our new fiscal year starts. And we look at it to see if the employee continues to pick it up in the commission or how we want to do that.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Debbie, that increase has already taken place, and was a recommendation of, what was the name of the board that you guys were,
The Insurance Review Committee Board,
that the employees pick up that
$27 for the
27
rest of this year
for the rest of this year?
to be reevaluated upon next fiscal year's
Right.
budget determination.
Okay. All right.
$13.50 per employee, right, per month,
Per month,
is that what you said?
no, that was just the total premium per employee at 108. And so it went up from 190, it went up $27, so now we pay $217 a month per employee contribution towards the premium.
Who do you pay?
We pay it directly to the trust, we take it out from the employee, commissioners put their part in, and then we write the trust, Northwest Administrators, a check for the full monthly premium to cover all of us. And they have what they call a composite rate, so whether you're a single employee or an employee with a family of 10, the premium doesn't change.
Yep.
So we're all paid the same.
You want to just tackle that one first off?
Yeah, I think we take.
Go ahead and jump up here,
tackle
Deb.
that first.
Sorry, that might be a little easier one.
Sure.
So I know that you figured out what that increase would be for next year. How much is that for the county? How much if we were to agree to pay that $27 for our employees?
Oh, goodness, I didn't come prepared for that part.
Okay. Okay.
I just kind of remember off the top of my head. Oh, goodness. See, there's one. There's 65 employees times 12. We probably pay close to $500,000
Okay, annually.
annually
So
between our
just,
permissive levy and our regular health levy.
Mhm.
We get about 500 and some thousand
Okay.
to offset the costs. Of course, the employees contribute towards that to
Yeah.
cover the whole bill, which is like another 100,000 or something like that. I wasn't prepared for that.
Okay. What was our increase last year? Do you remember?
It was $30.
30?
So it was 2.5%.
Okay.
So it was a little less this year.
So that's going to amount to 324 per employee, basically. Increase.
Yeah, 27 times 12, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So with this new, with the new rate, the total premium is going to be per person $14,452, regardless of who pays it. There's 65 of us on health insurance right now, so the total cost is about $929,000 this year with this increase.
So if this is the right math, you take that $324 per employee, multiply times 65. You said they're on.
There's 65 of us now with all the
So that's an
additions
extra-
to departments.
That's an extra $21,000 a year.
Well, and
Is
there's
that
12
right?
months, then you take per month. So are you doing that 324 per?
324 is the increase times 12 for
Okay.
each person, times 65 is,
No, 324 is the total for the year per
right, for the,
person.
right, the
Yeah.
increase, right.
Okay,
Per employee.
yeah,
So if I multiply that times 65 employees, right,
okay, yep,
that gives us $21,000.
pretty close,
Okay.
ballpark. Depends on how well you round.
Our medical that we pays out of mills is covered, or paid out of mills is covered, or out of the general fund is covered by mills, right? We have a
So
medical.
there's two funds. One is the general health, which does have floating mills contribute towards generating revenue for that. Then there's the permissive levy, which is a second fund that's based on its own separate valuations. And that's based on the number of people then on payroll as of June 30th determines the amount of money we can levy.
Okay.
So it's to our advantage to ensure anybody we think we're going to have hired or want to hire at least has to be on the payroll by June 30th to get the maximum benefit of those mills.
Okay.
If they don't get hired until after the first of the year, we're eating that cost and it's going into any reserves that we might have received or recognized from previous years.
Okay.
Which this year there was 2 or 3, and that tapped into carrying over part of the first month. So, we're down to basically square zero between both funds.
Well, and I know that we contributed, I don't have that here, but we contributed quite a bit out of tilt to cover that cost.
We did, and I know we did for the deputies, for their COPS grant.
Mm-hmm.
We only had one basically contribute towards that, so there's carryover there. But until they can find people to apply, they're having a hard time too.
Right. Okay.
Is there any discussion, any motion to be made to this, or?
I guess I'm interested to see what anybody else has to say about it. Doug, any comments? Any comments?
No.
Peter, you're representing the sheriff's department.
No comments at this point.
You know,
Like-
some people seem to think it's a lot, but in the scheme of things, it's like a drop in the bucket.
Yeah. I know.
The auditors will always, well, it's just a drop in the bucket, so you have to keep that into perspective. Same way with employees, we need to keep that in perspective with all your deductions and benefits. We need to consider that, and the commissioners have been very gracious over the years, like we've mentioned, at picking it up, most of the employees' cost. And so I know there's a lot of us that personally feel it's kind of selfish to expect you guys to pick up more. But on the other side, as an employee, it's awesome if you do. So it's kind of a hard one to quantify what to do.
True.
I can get that.
I guess my thought is, you know, if we didn't pick this increase up, whatever type of COLA adjustment that we did decide on would be pretty much nil. It wouldn't be much.
Balance it out, if any.
You know,
And if there again, depending on where you're at, pay-wise, you could be seeing anywhere from 25-cent COLA to 78-cent COLA, depending on where you're at hourly. So some of us won't see hardly any effect because that part is taken out of our taxable base. So it lowers our taxable income, so we pay less tax, so we're really not seeing the full effect of the $27. So then it's just a matter of math, balancing that out. So yeah, it's a hard one.
yeah. Bill, how about you? You've done this multiple times with other counties?
No.
No?
No, but I understand what she's saying,
Mhm.
so,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because while we have a very Cadillac Platinum health insurance,
We do.
you go talk with other people over the years, Blue Cross, wherever you work, they have high deductibles, high out of pockets, and they still pay a premium of $300 a month to have really poor coverage. So we really do have it lucky. But that's on the back of the sheriff's bargaining agreement. Without that bargaining agreement, we wouldn't have this insurance. So we would be faced with the same situation then, trying to find the shop around for the biggest bang for our buck at the least amount of cost to us to maximize our health insurance levies.
Yes, Peter?
Thank you. One point.
We have to make our comments at a microphone, because what happens, people can't hear
You got it.
what we're talking about.
I know I talk softly too.
Yeah,
We can just move that down there.
Sure. Thank you.
thank you.
You bet. Yeah, one comment, is that better?
Yep.
Okay, one comment that comes to mind is, in this day and age, I feel that what we pay also determines what we can get. What I'm seeing right now, if I may drift to the sheriff's office for a moment, is down in South King County where I live, the cost of living for housing is so expensive that we're having a heck of a time finding people who they can't live there for that amount. Just to give you an idea, Rolling Glen Ranch, the lots were going for about $27,000 8 months ago. Now there's 129,000, I believe, just sold. So I think if we're going to keep the kind of quality of people that we have and want to keep, may I suggest that we consider the value of these things as keeping the quality of employees that we have in medical and emergency services particularly. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
That's a good point. I mean, I think there's a lot of competition out there for good employees. We have some fantastic employees,
Oh, you bet.
and we do want to keep them. How about Chris, from you're our citizen advocate? Your
It
thoughts?
seems reasonable to me. I mean, if there's, it's only 320, and you're right, if there's tax, there's a whole lot of calculations. Does the average employee really take a look at that in the kind of detail that you're talking about? Or do they just see the $27 and go, oh, man, that's it?
And it reduces their check by 27 every pay period.
Well, I'd say that even if we are going to cover it with the COLA, for them to be able to say to them, we're covering that, and the COLA may be a different amount, and it'll be an increase, or maybe it'll be net. I don't think it'll be, even for the lowest paid people, that the COLA would have to be pretty low. I think it'll cover at least the $324, so.
It'll cover most of it,
Mhm.
if not all of it.
Right, I
Yeah.
think it's,
But then they kind of, maybe in their minds, oh, I'm not seeing anything, I might break even.
mhm,
So it all does depend on the amount of COLA.
right,
If we go any lower, then yes, they would probably see less,
right.
which has happened in the past. So some people are still kind of stuck on that. And so if we don't explain it right and try to get the breakdown in the dollar, how does this affect me? They have a hard time with that and they get stuck in the past.
Right. So I think that it seems reasonable. I mean, that's the 327. And I know last year, as I understand it, where some of the insurance companies are lowering, because they didn't have nearly the number of claims they had last year because people weren't going out and seeking treatment. So that might change next year, but at least this year,
Or they were healthier because they stayed home, because we're shut down.
may be.
They were healthier, so they didn't have
I don't know.
one.
I've seen a lot of people the waiting list to get tests done is really bad now. And even for people with what is possibly serious conditions, I was lucky. So I was really lucky.
That's the part we're facing now.
Yeah. Mhm.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's what I mean, the 324, it seems like a reasonable increase. And you're right, it's a small percentage of really of what's going on. But if we can cover it, I think we should, and let them know that we are.
And if we can keep the quality of employees that we have, by so doing, as one more factor, I definitely see value in. Is that better when I talk up a bit? without
Yeah,
this
sure.
microphone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess with that, I would make a motion that we pick up the $27 increase for our employees.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded for the county to pick up the $27 increase in the medical insurance premium. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Well, I guess next would be the increase for elected officials.
Well, my first question is somebody who's new, maybe this has been answered before, but what's the thinking behind, with the two columns here, we show a 2%, 2.5% elected COLA and 2% others. What's the, and the other was 3 and 2.5% respectively. What's the thinking besides having a smaller COLA for the people that aren't?
Well, I think that the thinking there is because of the way that the deputies are tied into the sheriff, we would give, or the proposal is to give elected officials 3%, and then that way, the deputies' raises are equal to the.
It flows down from
to
the, because there's
2.5
this.
that everybody else
Okay, got
gets.
it.
Because if you give him just 2.5, then they only get a percentage of that 2.5 versus a percentage of the 3, which puts them more in line with the rest of the county.
Right. Is, no.
Yeah, I think that's always been our challenge with that statute.
Well, the optics are terrible.
They are.
All the elected officials are like, yeah.
I know, and it's an educating process.
Mhm.
The folks understand just exactly what you're saying. That it looks like the elected officials are giving themselves a huge increase.
Mhm.
However, that's the only avenue we have to get our deputies an increase
Right.
through that process. Go ahead, come here.
So are you factoring in Senate Bill 238 already?
We have this here right now.
Yeah, you have that. So they're going to be able to go higher because of that
Yes.
bill.
Right, they gave them the option to, the undersheriff can receive 98% of the sheriff's salary. And since we're a county with a population below 15,000, the range is 85% to 95%.
Correct.
Which in the previous reading of this, it was 85 to 90%.
Correct.
Yep.
So, and still in that law, we are allowed to, at the discretion of the commission, to raise the sheriff's salary without it affecting the other elected officials.
Okay, that's a good to know. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to read that carefully, make sure you can do that.
I can read that if you
And
would
then,
like.
and then everybody adjusts from there.
So it's 7/4/2503 MCA, section 2C as in Charlie. Says in addition to the salary provided in subsections 1 and 2B, which relates to all elected officials, the county sheriff may receive an additional salary as determined by the Board of Commissioners. The additional salary provided in this subsection 2C must be included as salary for the purposes of computing the compensation for undersheriffs and deputy sheriffs as provided in 7/4/2508. So that's how that is connected.
So we don't have to have that difference to accomplish the goal that you were talking about. We could just simply have the sheriff receive 3% and then everybody else could receive 2.5%, including the elected officials, right? Is that,
Yes.
your optics
Yes,
problem,
yeah.
then your optics problem disappears, right?
Well, maybe not for the sheriff.
But
Oh,
the other sections you look at is the longevity payment,
Yes, right.
okay?
Yeah, that's a good point, Bill.
Yeah, so you may be able to do a lot on the longevity payment to, which I think would be a one-time adjustment. That
Well,
would,
that says though that you still use his base salary as computed through the statute of what he gets Doug's salary per percentage of that. That's what you use your calculation for your longevity.
correct.
His big bump in the salary doesn't go to everybody's increase. They only
That's
get
correct.
the increase of his base salary.
Do you have the language of the bill in front of you? I think it's 1% per year,
1%.
but I don't know where it starts. Is it for years of service?
Starts their first year of
The
service.
first, is it anniversary, Debbie? When the
Well,
1%?
the current language, it starts a year after they end their probation, so they've been here a year, by statute, deputies are on probation for a year. Then the language, old language is then they get longevity starting after they've been employed for a year, but I haven't read up enough on the new bill to know how exactly that's gonna impact changes, but if it's changing to say it starts when they're hired, then that whole year probationary period goes away, and it falls like everybody else, they get it regardless of their probationary period.
I believe it's still
It's on-
has
it's on
stayed,
page 2.
it stayed the same. Says beginning on the date of the deputy sheriff's or under sheriff's first anniversary of employment with the office and adjusted annually, the deputy sheriff or under sheriff is entitled to receive a longevity payment amounting to 1% of the minimum base annual salary for each year of service with the office. So it still says their first anniversary of employment.
So then typically what happens, we adopt our budget, approve our COLAs, the worksheets are updated so that when on their anniversary, whatever it's June or May, they get that new rate for a year, because it's adjusted once. So a year and 12 months, it doesn't say calendar year, fiscal year. That's what we typically have been doing.
Yeah.
So they get it on their anniversary, and then the next year, it stays at the old rate until their next anniversary, with whatever budget approval then.
But the language in the statutes talks about 1% for each year of service.
Right, right. But their year of service doesn't change until their anniversary.
I understand that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the only time we adjust it is on their anniversary when they're hired. So that's what we've done, just like the statute says.
But what I guess what I'm asking is the longevity payment is for each year of service. So if somebody's been with you 10 years, 10%.
So there's a worksheet that Mako has put out to make this easy for everybody. And it starts with the sheriff. And then his is plugged in, and then everybody's has been driven off that because of that, the statute. So then the formula that they have takes whatever the salary base and the sheriff and their allotments are for 2000, that's what's driving the amount the deputies get, and then their years and that 1%. And then we split each pay period, they get this amount to get that yearly total of longevity. So they are getting it.
So this worksheet though incorporates the bill.
Well, that I don't know yet, because I haven't seen all that.
That's
That's
what
the
I'm wondering.
difference.
Yeah,
I don't know if this worksheet incorporates,
until that's passed, I don't know, I haven't
It
seen
passed.
anything or heard
it
anything.
passes, it's on its way to government.
Then, yeah, it will have to change.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to know what it's gonna look like to move forward.
So how do you calculate that into the salaries?
We have what we call a separate line item called longevity. We just added in there, so each deputy gets longevity, it's based on their years of service, I updated in payroll when they get their anniversary, and then we go for a year till their anniversary the next year, and then whatever rate that is, we update it. That's what we've currently been doing. Now, of course, you know, this bill might change everything, but until I know all that, I don't know how else, what they're looking at and where to change it.
I guess you wait till the government signs it
Yeah.
and find out
Yeah.
what the formula is.
Hopefully that'll be the next couple of days.
But it's independent of what the salaries would be that you set, or the cost of living or whatever.
Yes, Peter?
The cost of living that's listed here, is that particularly for the state of Montana, for the county, federal, national? What is that
I
based
think
on?
that's federal, right?
That's what I remember.
That's what the current one is. Remember when we looked here several months ago, it was at 1.3%. And then just recently here, it's taken a big jump to,
I imagine.
yep. And then we're all seeing the price of fuel and everything else out there, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. So right now it's sitting at 2.6%.
And may I suggest it's probably gonna continue moving upwards, so that's where I'm looking at that 3%. True.
So am I correct that we could give the sheriff 3% and everybody else 2.5%?
And
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I thought that, and if you did that, okay, and we saved the 0.5% on the total salary for the electeds, that's the 20-some thousand dollars that you need to cover what you just did.
Yeah, for
And so,
the medical, yep.
do you know what I mean?
That's exactly.
And then that way you'd be shuffled, so you could take what everybody else gets, and they get, right, and they get 2.5, and they get the bump in the insurance covered.
Right. Yep, good point.
Yeah.
But I think you would have to do the sheriff's salary separate from what we're doing here, right?
Well,
He
give
has
him
to-
the 3%?
Yeah.
Because we'd have to make a recommendation for the elected officials, and then we would have to come back and make another recommendation for the sheriff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're right, Dal. It may create an opposite problem for him, but he's not here. So and that's part of missing meetings. Okay? You can't argue that. Yeah.
Okay.
Taking one for the team.
Personally, I would be more in favor of the 3% for everyone. I'm not so sure about, I mean, I think elected officials, if we have to put them more, but the thing is, if we give just a 2.5 to everyone else, we're not even covering the CPI. And if it's gonna continue going up, we won't be anywhere near. It's already at 2.6, so it's above a 2.5 COLA already.
Right.
And the way that it's going, it's probably gonna be closer to 3, I would think. And really, for the effort that all of our employees put in through the last debacle of the last year, I don't think that that's out of line at all. I mean, we were basically essential workers. Everyone made it a concentrated effort to be at work or even do their work from home. We didn't hear a whole lot of belly aching from anybody about having to be there when they had to be there. So I think the degree of cooperation and dedication that we got from them would warrant the 3%.
So, hey, Deb, so looking at the one sheet where the department totals that you had there, and you had it separated out as between 2.5%. You separated the elected and others out, but anyway, at the end, you gave a difference. Is that was be an annual? It was 18,000, right? for the,
That would have been in the whole year, correct?
for the whole year.
Mhm.
And that was somewhere between 2.5% and 3%, it looks like. So if we kind of extrapolate between those, the other one, 2.5 and 2%, I would guess we're just estimating somewhere in the $20,000 range based on this, maybe 21,000.
Yeah, add another 0.5% and add that to
Mhm.
each base up, and it kind of gives you an idea of the total cost.
Yeah.
For 18,000, that includes all the taxes and stuff at this point, in addition to the pay that employees are getting. So, it didn't seem like, to me, compared to years past, it didn't seem like it amounted to much.
Mhm.
So part of that is our work comp rate, I think is improving, and it's supposed to go down again, because Mason's death will drop off. So I can't imagine our work comp going up anymore than what it's at right now. Might go down, so that'll be even less cost to the county.
Well, that's a good point. We did save quite a bit last year in workers' compensation. And I don't know if we'll realize a dividend from that. I mean, they say that we will.
Well, we're supposed to see it, and the last 3 quarters I've done our payroll, our average premium, we're paying 29,000 per quarter, where we were paying closer to 35 the other way. Now, we did over budget for that, because due to some misunderstandings with state fund and us and how we did it, actually budgeted more in people's budgets for the work comp, because the way they had the mod factor and the rate was a little different in our system than what they told me, and so we have more money sitting out there. So that'll get infused back to the regular budget when the clearing account is cleaned out.
Deb, do you have a number for the total? You had the elected officials total. Do you have the total for the unelected? For the others? Is that just, do I just subtract the $500,000 from that number,
Yeah,
basically?
subtract the elected official from the total, and that comes
Okay,
up.
so it's
Yeah.
about 360,000, maybe 370,000.
So for the
I'm sorry,
elected-
3.7. I'm sorry,
depending on the
3.7 million.
I didn't get that.
Well, if it's at 4.2 and I subtract a half, I'm at 3.7, right? So 3.7 million is pretty much the. So if we're doing percentages, I just wanted to find, if we're going to do 0.5%, it's easier to.
Yeah.
With that $18,000, $20,000 keeps coming up all over the place. Isn't it? This
Yeah.
year.
So, Mike, are you guys, on your contract, are you set on a dollar amount, or does it have a adjustment in there for cost of living and stuff with your?
We've got a 3%, I believe we're, with our contract, I think we went with 2%, 3,
Okay,
I believe. So we're automatically going up 3%
okay.
for at least 2 more years, I think.
Right. That's right. I do remember that. Okay.
Any other discussion or comments? Yes. Yes, please.
I broke my mask, so I hope you don't mind me not wearing it. I guess I got big ears. I received a few emails from the treasurers around the state not very many, but about what they're doing. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Stillwater County is proposing 3%. Lewis and Clark is proposing 2.2. Treasure County is proposing 2%. Prairie County is proposing COLA plus 1.8%. And Gallatin County is proposing 6% because they canceled their 3% increase from last year due to COLA. So that's just some numbers to tell you what other counties are doing. I looked back on some of the minutes for the salary committees, and I came up with a couple from 2005 and 2006 when Judy Gillespie was the treasurer. And at that time, she was suggesting that the group prepare a matrix that would give a grade or classification of the job and reflect yearly increases, sort of like the state of Montana has for its employees. She felt it would give incentive for employees to stay with the job a little longer. We kind of do that with the sheriff's office with their longevity. And looking at this one sheet that we've got, I know the elected officials' wages go by my wages, just the way Montana code's written. But when I look at longevity that the sheriff gets compared to my wage, he's getting $10,000 a year more than I am. I've been in these compensation meetings for several years, and for the past 3 or 4, it seems like everything we get hit with is I don't care if anybody gets a raise as long as I get a penny in my longevity, and we'll all be happy. Well, we won't all be happy with that. I think you guys have done an outstanding job, so I'm not knocking you in any way. I'm just saying my employees who have to know motor vehicle laws, driver's license laws, tax laws, clerk and recording laws, election laws, and superintendent of school laws, 6 different things, and I might be missing 1 or 2, get about $15 an hour. I've been told they're hiring people at Walmart in Bozeman for $17 an hour. This county is growing. I don't have to tell you guys that. I'm planning on leaving in January, and Rouser, I've heard, is planning on leaving in January. If we don't think that longevity is important, show up in my office the day after Ann and I are gone and see how much that's important. Ann's got a wealth of knowledge that I don't think is going to be replaced for a long, long time. And I don't know if giving everybody longevity is the answer. I'm not sure what the answer is. I think Judy was on the right track of having a matrix. If minimum wage is going up to $15 an hour and my employees are barely making that, you're going to have a hard time keeping people when they don't get a break. They never take a 15-minute break. They're at the counter, sometimes on their feet 4 hours a day at a time until lunch, and then another 4 hours. I'm not here for the elected officials so much. I'm here for the workers, the ones that do the manual work. I think it's almost criminal that they're only getting $15 an hour. It's went up. I started at $7 an hour doing more work than they're doing because that's just the way the office was set up. So I know the amount of work they do. I'm kind of fighting for the little guy. I don't have a lot of sympathy, I guess, for the sheriff when I can see he's making $10,000 an hour. I know his job has more hazards than my office has, and I think he deserves every penny he can get in a wage increase. I'm not going to say he doesn't deserve it or his employees don't deserve it. He has a hard time keeping dispatchers. It's a revolving door over there. In the past 2 years, I've lost 3 employees in an office that's went for a long time without losing any. So, when when we have our county planner who's stressed for work, she's swamped. We have our sanitarian that's swamped. We're needing more help. The sanitarian sees people once for a septic permit. The planner sees them maybe twice for a subdivision and then maybe addressing. My office sees them for motor vehicles. They see them for elections. They see them for taxes. They see them for their deeds that they do. They see them if they're homeschooling. So for every time that one office sees them, we see them 5 times. And I'm concerned that there's going to be a great falling away of employees if they get more and more work put on them and we don't keep up with the wages. And the reason I'm saying this is when I look at the other counties and what they're doing, and I look at and there was only one county that was given COLA plus 1.8%. In all the years that I've been in these meetings, I think maybe 0.5% over COLA is probably the highest I've seen. Usually we're doing good to get COLA, and I know, the times get hard and budgets get tight. I would like to see COLA plus 1%, COLA plus 1.8, COLA plus 2. Make these people think they're making a difference and they're trying to stay ahead. Like we just mentioned, the cost of gas is going up, cost of power is going up, cost of groceries is going up. If all they're doing is staying even with that cost of living, what's their incentive to stay? They need to feel like they're moving ahead a little bit, like they're making a difference. I just, whatever we can give, I think we should give, because I think our employees are worth it. I think they're the most important asset that we have in this county. It's not our patrol cars. It's not our weed spraying. It's not our mosquito sprays. It's not the TV that we have up on the hill. It's the employees that make this thing go around and round day after day after day. And I just fully believe that the more we can help them out, the happier employees we're going to have, the more work we're going to get out of them, and the longer they're going to stay here. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in. I think back in 2005, they were worried about the sheriff's office and they were worried about the treasurer's office. Number one, because the sheriff's office probably is the most stressful position. But the treasurer's office is probably the busiest office next to the sheriff's office. When we had COVID and we didn't show up one day, what did they do? They called 911 because the treasurer's office wasn't open. So you guys were there and heard people out in the halls yelling because nobody was there. So, when we don't show up for work, people don't get paid. Debbie knows that. She works closely with us. I just think what we can give the employees is going to better the county. I've heard projections that from Bozeman to Helena in the next 5 years, we're going to have 1 million people. It's going to be like Salt Lake. It's going to be like Boise. We're going to be town after town after town where you can't tell where one starts and the other one stops. And our employees, all of them, weed, road, treasurer's office, sheriff's office, every office is going to be swamped. They're going to be working like they've never worked before. And if they're not getting paid for it, they have no incentive to stay. So if it comes down, 2.5 or 3%, that's a no-brainer for me. I would go for 3 every time. And not because I want it, because I'm going to be gone in 6 months. I don't care. I really don't. I care for the people that are going to stay here. So, 3% to me is rock bottom what they should get. And I think if we can give more, We're going to have the tax money coming in. There are fees that we can add to the people moving in that they should be charged. Our clerk and recorder fees are $7. They haven't had a raise for, I think, 16 years on our recording fees. We charge people $20 for addressing when they're putting in $1 million home. $250 for addressing isn't a stretch. They're not even gonna blink an eye at it. You know, I think we can find ways to make this money to pay our employees what they deserve to get, and maybe hire a couple of extra for planning, for sanitarian, for the ones that are overworked and don't have the people helping them. And this meeting that we have every year seems like it's all about COLA. And I don't think it is. It's about helping the people in the offices so they can help the people in the county. And I just think that Broadwater County is on the threshold right now of just exploding. And we're seeing it. We're seeing realtors that are have an offer on the house, no questions asked for the price that the sellers are demanding, putting the ads out there saying, still taking offers, because people are paying more than the homeowners are asking. You know, it's time to step up our game a little bit, I think, and just take care of the employees as much as we can. I think that's what we need to be doing. So, just my 2 cents. If it's between 2.5 and 3, that's not even a consideration in my mind. It's going to be 3. And if we can give more, I think we should, because the employees this year are going to be busting their tails to get the work done.
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
So you guys have asked me to help you with budgeting process, and this is just one part of it. And so what I wanted to do was offer some suggestions, because I think the gentleman made a great point about the COLA, but making a cost of living adjustment on a small salary is still a small thing. Well, I work for the state of Montana, you guys know that, and we are fortunate when the legislature gives us 50 cents an hour every 2 years. That's what we get. So it doesn't matter what you make, you get that 50 cent per hour increment. But what we've been working on is we have a disparity between what state employees make for what they do versus what somebody in the marketplace can make doing that same type of work. And so my suggestion to you is you have people in the treasurer's office. Okay, so you have people in treasurer's office who are customer service specialists. They have this very technical job they do. As this gentleman mentioned, they have to interpret, they have to implement the law, so they have to know it and all that. One of the things that you can look at going into the budgeting process this year is not only given this cost of living adjustment now for what you're going into, for what everybody gets paid, but also looking at a program for market rate adjustments over time, over a period of time. Because what he's mentioning is something that you're going to have to deal with. When he leaves, you've got to find somebody to replace him. Somebody under that leaves, you have to find, who are you going to get in the marketplace to do that job for $15 an hour? You may not be able to attract people. You know that. So over a period of time, what I think you want to do is a market-based adjustment of all the salaries and pay scales that you have. And that's strategic. It's strategic, and it can keep pace with what we're seeing with the change in assessed value in the county. We know that's happening, right? So if you have a strategy that goes hand in hand with what's happening economically, then I don't think anybody can complain. You can't do it all at once, but you can move in that direction. So what I would suggest is when we get into the actual budgeting for each department, you look at that aspect of, is there some other kind of adjustment, kind of like the longevity adjustment, that allows you to take those steps and create a situation where you're going to have a sustainable workforce.
Michael, you may recall, how many years ago was it that, didn't a study like that, a market where they took a look at all, oh, yes, Deb. You're just waving, okay, so that's,
So yes, we have done that. That's what our
it was like
salary survey was
it
for.
was like 3 years ago or something, 3 or 4 years?
16.
Okay, 4 years.
October of 16
Okay.
is when we adopted it.
Right, so 4 years.
And so every year, back then, when we first started this, I've been doing some of the HR, working with West staff. Jim Nice, he's known around the state for his HR skills and talents. He recommends every year to keep up with cost of living, a minimum 2.5 when you're calculating wages. So we hired Dick Larson to come in and do this wage survey. So he sat down with everybody, their job descriptions, and came up with this matrix.
That was 4 years ago, you're saying?
Yep, 2016.
Okay, right.
So every year, we have tried to take that same principle
Mm-hmm.
and add it to this matrix to kind of come up with something.
Right. Bill, have you seen that, what she's
I've
talking?
not seen that.
But that's what you're
I can
talking
send it
about,
to
right?
you.
That's kind of what you're talking about, having,
Mhm.
okay,
Exactly.
okay, great.
Because when we go out to hire new positions to be market compatible,
Sure.
we've had to have this to follow in order to track.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to get everyone caught up. The caveat to this has been they have a median wage, a median base that we kind of got tied into, and I'm not sure I agree with the union's concept on this. This median rate that we can only get a certain percent of median. And because we're held hostage to that kind of by the union contract, in my opinion. What happened then is it took everybody's current rates, added all this, and some of us are at the median, or we're over the median, or we're way under. It's not kept up. Some department heads are good at keeping up with they need market adjustments to be comparable. Comparable. And other departments could care less. So there's some people, little clerks that are only making 70% of median, and other clerks,
So
90%.
is it, this hasn't been updated countywide for the whole group the way it was 4 years ago since then? So it's only individual departments that
No,
have?
well, Michelle has been really good at every year when we do the budget to add 2.5 to that. Automatic to show where you're at, and then anybody where you're currently at with your current base with COLA.
But nobody's called those counties that were surveyed 4 years ago and said, so where are you now? So that we can see.
And Doug and I were just kind of talking about this before we came. I don't even remember now which counties. I'd have to go look at this
I
study
remember the
sheet.
discussion, I remember.
And I know they pulled Gallatin County because like my position, there's only 3 in the state that have a separate finance officer. So I'm kind of in one of those unique places. How do we do this when everybody's clerk and recorder treasurer based? When we created our new public works department, there was no band matrix for this. So we kind of had to do some research
Right.
to come up with a new band.
Well, easy for one position, it's much tougher to update the whole.
But there are still departments, and that's why there's the colors, because it's easy to tell who's at or above and who's way below that need market adjustments. And I know 3 or 4 years ago, we tried to encourage the commission board at that time, we need to look at this and get everybody at a good starting point, because otherwise we're still limping along. This department gets it because my boss cares, but this department don't because not
Right.
important to me. They're waiting for somebody else to do it.
Right. And as I recall, was that about $9,500 to get that done? Do you remember? Anybody, Mike? do you
Seems to
remember?
be, that's about.
Yeah,
that was
95
before,
to
I
10,000,
And I
somewhere
think,
along in
and
there.
I think the decisions that came from that right away saved over $20,000 in payroll that year. It was like well worth. I mean, and you could justify it without feeling like you were. So I mean, it seems like it's money well spent
Yeah,
to
so
know
it-
what's going on.
So it did mimic what the state does in their bands, and that's kind of what we tried to do.
Right.
You're in this band
Yeah, you
and
can
these
do that.
positions.
Well, I'm saying go even further than that. Beyond
Yeah.
looking at what other counties do, because they may be doing bad things with their employees' pay too.
Yeah.
Right.
Look at other similar jobs in the marketplace, because the marketplace is what you're competing with. You're not competing with other counties, because nobody's gonna live here and go work in Mara County.
So that's where there's a website, ONET Online, that does more for HR stuff with job descriptions, but down on each of their job descriptions, they have what is the Bureau of Labor and Statistics has where you can click on the national median or state-specific median, and that's what I started to use before we did this.
But what
And
I'm
it's
concerned
very clear,
about-
this is not even close to that, even with being county-based.
But doing an update of something that's
Yeah.
is not always the best thing to do. So, the other thing is,
$15 an hour Walmart people aren't on that list, and that's what you're saying, that we're competing with not just other counties. That's,
Yeah.
that's who you
unless there's a benefit hidden to working with the county that you get, that they don't get at Walmart. You know what I mean?
Health insurance being one of
Well,
them.
so that's kind of the,
But what I'm concerned about too, for the commissioners to consider, is the lack of discipline among your departments. Put here to it.
Very much so,
That should be happening,
Right.
very much so.
That's Mike.
because that creates disparity between the offices.
So we kind of have something going. So I was like, we
right.
do have a start, a foundation somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't come up, I saw it, I didn't create that, I'm not good enough. I remember it from 4 years ago.
That's Mike.
Well, I guess you've got all this work going on here, and your permits are probably they're way too low than what they should be. I agree with everything that you said.
Mhm.
Could you guys start working on your permits system and all that, and start using some of that money to put back in, and now that longevity, that's the way I think that you'll keep employees, if you can find a way to get the longevity. But we were under a crush these last few years with the sheriff's department. We were under attack there. It was, good gosh, we didn't know where we were gonna get our money from anything. But now the county stepped up and said they'll, put some tax money on that, and maybe it's looking good. Why don't we try and get those employees to where, that's all my people ever talk about, how much longevity they're gonna have when they retire. And that's about all they get, as far as I can tell. I mean,
Well, it's,
gotta be a way.
yeah, I feel like in some ways we're putting the cart before the horse, deciding, because really, Doug, I totally agree with you. If you're not, when I got here, I saw the fees compared to what I was paying back east, and people actually talking to you without gritting their teeth. It was just a real, but if the fees, you're right, nobody's going to blink an eye if it's just part of the package. It's like, this is just what it is, and it's comparable to what other people are doing. If the strain here is because of the growth, and we're not getting the money from the growth, that's stupid. That we should really be looking at that, but almost before we even decide how much money we have to give away.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because that's something, I don't know how quickly this decision has to be made. But it seems like that somebody should take a look, even a cursory look. Have you done that at all? It's just seen, Doug,
We've raised some of ours in the city, but we have a lot more that we need to.
well, the city's not gonna see the growth, the county's gonna, you know what I mean? Like, you're right, that's gonna be, yeah.
The growth that you are,
Right.
that subdivision goes in. I mean, it's amazing, we're busy enough.
Right,
People are redoing their buildings and
right.
Yes, Peter.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts. One is, I kind of get what you were talking about. My wife was a deputy county clerk in the town, or from the county from which we moved. In fact, the prosecuting attorney threatened to charge me with a felony for stealing a county treasure out of a county building and transporting her across multiple state lines out here in Ranger and keeping her in
Sounds like a federal beat.
He's also a good friend. Anyway, a couple of thoughts. Listening to all of you speak, what kind of comes to mind for me is it just keeps coming back. If we're going to keep the quality of the people that we have, I think we need to keep up.
And the idea of the fees, you know far more about this than I do, but it makes a lot of sense to me, even with my limited knowledge. It makes a lot of sense. When I look at where I moved from, the difference in the fees, holy smokes.
Right.
It would appear to me, we have a lot of room we can make.
Sure. If we charge, half of what they're paying somewhere else, it's a huge increase for us.
Yeah.
You know, but it's something that we should take advantage of, for
And
sure.
that might be a way to see out of this, but I really feel that when I look at our county people, our sheriff's office, our medical people, these are people our lives depend upon. I feel that if we're going to keep them, especially as the county keeps on expanding, there's going to be more and more competition out there for them. So against us, so we could lose them. Just a thought.
I guess it's interesting that we're talking about this, because this is on our agenda for next Monday. It's fee adjustments.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Good.
maybe it was, maybe that's a sign, but we are discussing that Monday. Is like with Doug, I mean, all it takes is a dialogue to say, hey, we need to make that change. So that's what we're going to look for from you. And I agree that that could be a way to help offset some of this.
Mr. Chairman, the decision you have to make today is because your deadline's coming up in 2 days, right? Is the cost of living adjustment. That's what you decide today. A lot of the other things that we talked about tonight, we can talk about during the budgeting process.
Yes, and I think that I would agree with Peter wholeheartedly. The problem that we have here is we put a lot of stock in our insurance program, which amounts to about $3 an hour. But the problem is that if you're about 25 years old, you don't really care about insurance. So that's why we can't attract young people, because we pay, comparable to Walmart, but we have an excellent benefit package. But that does not enter into their head at all. And the other part of that is that we have positions right now. I mean, we're looking at 2 more positions. We can't even get an applicant. I mean, we had an open position, full benefits. We got 2 applicants. And that's the problem that we face. The sheriff's department says we can't get nobody to apply for a job. Well, we can't either.
Right there, yes.
But the thing is, we can't take and jack up the starting pay, because all the people that we have working there aren't even making what we really need to have as starting pay. Our people that have 20 years in here aren't even making that much money, but they're getting insurance, and they're the people that care about insurance. But if they don't care about insurance, you're not going to attract them.
And they care about our county a lot.
Yep.
The people, they care about our county and our people.
So I think that what we need to do is figure out what we can do for that we have for these employees right now. I think 1 year since I've been here, we had 1 year where we actually went above COLA, and we went 4%, and I think COLA was 3%. So if someone cares to make a motion on what we should do with COLA, I would entertain such a motion.
Well, I think one thing to keep in mind too is this is just a recommendation from this board,
Yes.
that the commission still has an opportunity to change that. We can make it higher if we feel we need to, or you see what I'm saying? When it comes time to have that discussion as a commission.
Well,
Does that make sense?
Before you start, do you have any idea what we collect annually, like in the fees that you're talking about? Any idea what that number is?
I ran a little bit just on the proposed subdivisions.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I'm not sure how many, I don't see the amount of lots in each subdivision, so I was just shooting from the hip.
Mm-hmm.
I heard we had a 700 lot subdivision on one side of the lake, another 700 on another side of the lake, which would be 1,400 houses.
Okay.
So if you take 14, just addressing.
Now, how much have we collected in terms of of fees? Like last year, what did we collect in terms of fees and like all that stuff? Do you know?
Well, just for addressing alone, if you had 1,400 hours at $20,
Right. Yeah, it's 28 grand. That's what I'm saying. It's not, if we're,
28, so if you up that fee to $250, which I don't think would be unreasonable, you know, you're gonna increase that from 28,000 to 280,000
Right.
plus. I mean,
and every 0.5% we're talking about here is like 20 grand? Is that, we're not, okay. Good.
Two things. One along the line of what you're talking about, Kavanaugh, the fellow who started Rolling Glen Ranch down the south, and actually didn't work out for a lot of people. Anyway, he's back in business in the county, and he's come up with $25 million of backing, as I understand it, to have another 2,200 building sites just immediately south of the present Rolling Glen Ranch. So you're talking, when you're talking about $20 versus $250, you're talking about 5 cents of revenue. Let's see. But as one question for Latitude, is it appropriate to say a minimum of 3%, so that we give a recommendation and the commission can decide from there if they want to? If we say 3%, does that lock it into 3%, or does the commission have latitude to move above that if they find it advisable?
I think that we do.
That was your point, right? That you could.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
could.
that was, yeah, I mean, we could,
This is just a suggestion.
this is just a
This is
recommendation
an
from this
advisory
board.
board.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That's what I mean. Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Which may be a good idea to do. We could lock in a figure for Debbie to help to work with, as a base starting point, and then see if we need to, if we can go above that, or whatever.
No matter how you want me to run those parameters,
Mhm.
3% for all, kind of like we did the 2.5, 3.
Mm-hmm.
How you want me to do it, start here and go up to here as a maximum? These departments get, market adjustments, whatever, based on matrix to bring them up, that's, I can do any of that, you just have to kind of give me the directions and I'll make it happen.
Right.
So is it possible for us to give a standard dollar amount raise every year and then plus COLA? Like, can you say that we're going to give every employee $1 an hour? But the thing is, that can't transfer to the sheriff's department, right? Because they only get percentages.
And then that would kind of be something we'd have to look at and make sure we aren't violating their bargaining agreement
Right.
by not giving them the same or greater.
Yeah. We did that.
You
that
probably,
yeah.
at statute, you could probably give them their percent, but I think we ran into this in the past, doing the flat amount, and it put things out of wink and whack, and then this department, they're saying, no, you got more than I did, because I didn't get the dollar, and.
Mhm. It triggered the Me Too clause.
Kind of
Right.
A version of that Me Too clause.
Yep.
And it cost us more than we intended to do with the attempt. So then that's where kind of we did this market adjustment, because market adjustments and new hire, updated job descriptions type of thing is outside the scope of the Me Too clause and doesn't trigger it. Because that was the only way that non-bargaining employees were able to get any increase in their salaries other than COLA. Because our hands were tied to that old Me Too clause. This gave us some room to accommodate those changes without triggering the Me Too clause.
Yes, Peter?
May I suggest that the point made about market competition, to me, could be an extremely valid point.
Well, the problem that I have with market competition is that we're constantly comparing Gallatin County and Lewis and Clark County to Broadwater County, and that does not work. I mean, that's what we hear from the sheriff's department. I can go to Bozeman and make $42 an hour. We can't compete with that. I mean, so when they did the matrix, they threw those bigger counties out. But the problem is, we're sitting here, and no matter what, if we want to set our wages by those other counties and not use those counties, they're right on our back door looking for people. And we just cannot compete with those people. There's no way we're ever going to be able to. Did you have something, Bill?
The only thing I was going to say, Mike, is it seems to me that you need to do other work and then bring that forward as a proposal for the union negotiations. Is what I think. You know, is because what you're really trying to do is you're bargaining to transform your pay structure, your pay system. And I think you need to calculate that all first, figure out what you can do, look at what's happening with your valuation and what the trend line is there. Think about, you know, the activity that brings in fees and actually revenue activities every single unit. And then figure out what you can do, then use that for bargaining. In the meantime, you make this adjustment, you say, this is the direction we're gonna go in. That's my advice. Rather than $1 an hour here, or whatever. I think all that does is perpetuate a bad system.
Okay.
I guess one thing that I have in the back of my mind is the situation that we were in, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where we had set our budget. We were, and a week before it was final, the state sent us a letter that we've devaluated your mill
Yes, you have that.
by whatever it was. I can't remember the percentage.
Lost all that value.
Yep. And all of a sudden, we had to go backwards, and it was disappointing for our employees, and everything. So I guess with that in mind, knowing that is a possibility at the end of this, I guess I would propose 4.5%, and let Debbie work on that. And when we get ready to make that decision, we can go from there if we feel that's a good number. If we feel we can do more, or if we have to do less, we'll make that adjustment as a commission. What do you think?
I don't have a problem with that.
What do you guys think?
Don't you need that in the form of a motion?
No, this is for discussion.
Right.
This is for
Would you
discussion.
make a motion, have it seconded, and then do a discussion?
No, well, we could, but I don't want to do that.
Bob's rules, not Robert's rules.
Bobby,
Yeah.
Zach Cash.
But I guess I'm posing it as a question if that's the direction that we want to go. Mostly probably from the commission standpoint, if they're comfortable doing something like that.
Yes. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, obviously, much more than I do about this, everyone in the room I'm sure does, but again, when we're looking at such a low fee structure, it just would seem to me from my exposure that would be, we have a huge, not huge, but we have a substantial and justifiable source of revenue there, I would think.
Right.
And when we look at what, especially if we were to compare it with other states, other counties in Montana, I would think we'd have justification to raise those fees when I see what they are. Wow.
And that is part of our budget process, as our managers do make projections of what they feel their revenue will be for the upcoming year. And that would be a part of that.
And if we can raise the fees, that would adjust that considerably.
Yeah, but that's not the only revenue source that you
I
have.
realize that.
No, but that would be sufficient, you know, when you look at it. If it's only 20,000 for a half a point, I mean, you're,
Yeah,
you
you
know.
can't spread it. The other thing is, you don't know what's happening on your expenditure side,
Right.
what your opportunities are there. The other thing is, House Bill 701, if you guys end up having a vote to opt in to adult use marijuana, you have the ability to raise a 3% excise tax
Yeah.
on those sales.
But here's the thing on that. Broadwater County were voted against that initiative, so automatically we are an opt-out county.
You are an opt-
But we have the
you have
option.
the election to opt
We
in.
do,
Yes.
so we have to go back through the process,
That's correct.
and the folks in Broadwater County would have to say, yes, we want to opt in.
That's correct.
I see.
So if we ran that, if we ran that election to opt in, is that the time that we would state what our optional tax on it is going to be? Or do we have to come back and run an election, and then if it passes, then we have to decide that fee, or can we set that fee before we even have the opt-in vote?
Mike, we're developing the rules of revenue for that, and I don't know if you do it simultaneously, or if it's if you get to decide once the county opts in. I don't know if there's a vote of the people for the excise tax. I think there's a vote of the people to opt in.
Does it
So
require a vote of the people, or does it require a vote of the commission?
No, it requires the vote of the people to opt in.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll have that developed over the next few months. But
Okay.
that's something that's, again, a revenue source that's strategic for law enforcement and everything else.
Do you really, I guess, Bill, you'd look at this problem, have looked at it quite a bit more than most folks. Do you really think that the revenue stream that they're projecting to local governments is real?
On the excise tax?
Yes,
Or on the overall taxation?
on the overall.
The-
By the time it gets distributed to all the different entities, what we really realize at the very end of it.
Okay, so here's what I believe is happening with the revenue statewide.
Okay.
And you have to realize what's happening with these, going from medical to recreational. Only the medical licensees that exist will be able to go recreational on January 1st of 2022. Okay? When they go to recreational use, that's when the 20% will kick in for those sales. And that revenue will start to, the marketplace and the revenue for that will start to happen January 1, 22. And we're expecting that the first year is going to be $4 million statewide, and then it's going to go as much as to $48 million. What we don't know is the marketplace going to accept 20% taxation on that item versus 40% on medical versus no tax on black market? So we don't know that yet. So many of the economists who are looking at this think that the legislature may have overestimated the revenues. And for the state, that's a problem for them because they're dedicating where that money goes.
Right.
For locals, I think it's more certain if you have a recreational seller in your county, that you're gonna see 3% of whatever that is in that location. It could be significant. It depends. What I would say is that it's down the road a piece, but it is a revenue source.
So back to the 4.5, does anybody else have any further comments on that?
My thought is that given that the cost of living is at 2.5, 2.6, if we went to 3.5, that's an increase that tips our hat to the increase, and it gives the commissioners more room. You can always raise it if you want, but 4.5 I'm just more conservative than that seems like a big jump in 1 year. So I would say I could easily get behind 3.5. And if you need to go to 4.5 because you could justify it because Doug has provided information that says, hey man, we can pop out an extra 90 grand really based on a percentage of what we did last year of, you know what I mean, with fees and earmark it for that, you know, with that in mind, because that's really, you know, Doug, I see what you're saying in terms of different jobs. I always defer, personally, to police officers. Anybody straps on a gun and gets between me and the bad guy gets, like, whatever I can. and the people, or the fire, like back east, the fire departments, they're running into a burning house. You know what I mean? How can you can't compare that to the guy who does certificate of occupancy inspections in a pristine house with no dust. You know what I mean? How can you compare? And they used to complain, oh, we didn't get the cost of living that the cops got. I'm like, well, guess what? What they're doing is, I hear they're taking applications. If somebody wants to get that money, go ahead and apply. So I would say, with that in mind, that if we value the employees, that anything that we can do that would give us, to earmark it, and then go with. That's what I would be more comfortable with 3.5. But I'm only one vote. But that to me, it gives the commission room to go up above if they want. And if we have more money after you find out the facts, then throw it at it. That's
what you're talking here, the 2.5 COLA and the 3.5. What we're talking about now has nothing to do with the sheriff's office, right? This is the
No, it still affect the sheriff's office. It will still affect the sheriff's office.
okay.
because he's elected.
Because he's an elected official, so he'll still realize whatever percentage it is that we agree upon, and
For all.
and then that percentage can be passed down to his under sheriff and his deputies.
Any other discussion? Someone care to make the motion?
Yeah, I would move that we adopt a recommendation of 3.5% for the COLA.
Is there a second?
I think that makes sense.
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded to approve a 3.5 COLA recommendation to the commissioners. Any further discussion? Take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Okay, so what other things do we have to consider then? I think that's about it, isn't it?
I think those are the three items. Well, we combined, we're gonna take a different tact on the sheriff's salary,
Yes.
so.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, we can adjourn at 6:35.
It's not quite.
We'll have to wait a minute before. 6:30.
All depends on what side of the time zone you're in.
That's right.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you very much. Thanks for making the trip, Bill.
You're welcome. So I'm still waiting for you guys to have a discussion about budget philosophy,
Mm-hmm.
whenever you want to do that.
Yeah, okay.
Basically, it's basically to say, okay, when we approach the budget, do you want to do it incrementally? Do you want to do a program review? Do you want to do a zero-based budgeting? Whatever you want to do, it's a philosophy to apply to how you look at the revenues and expenses for all the departments coming in.
All right.
If we're gonna start budget meetings, we should probably do that next week, huh?
Yeah.
It's gonna be-